Hey guys, this is Walt and welcome to the webinar replay. It's a bit of a strange one because as I clicked go with the webinar, we're using GoToWebinar, so it should be fine, but as we clicked go, there was an update. Okay, cool. So stupidly, I clicked on update now, and what that meant was the screen recording didn't work during the presentation. Okay, cool. People could still see the camera, so I was talking directly to the camera and we did, the whole webinar like that, like this. Okay, no worries. People were engaging and worked really well. I had all these slides and I was reading through the slides and going through the presentation, but people could only see the camera. Now, when I look at the replay, the only thing that recorded was a blank screen. So what I've done is I've got the voice and I've matched it with the slides, and we've got the replay. So enjoy and reach out to me if you've got any questions, anything that I can do to help, as always. And if you enjoy the content, please share. And thanks for being part of our world. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Oh, hi, everyone. It's morning for me. It's just gone 5 a.m. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Taker's in the house. Hi from Michigan, says Kathy. Guys, are we here? Let me know if you've got me loud and clear, and we'll get everything sorted as we're moving on. Who else have we got here? Who's joining us and where from? Let me know that you've got me. Hi, Walt. Fantastic. Thanks. Great to see you. Can hear you. Fantastic. Let me just get this sorted in a much easier way. All right. So we're going to talk about where to from here. There's a couple of different topics that I wanted to cover. So let me just jump in and we'll go with that. First of all, it's been an amazing week. Guys, how's your week? Tell me about your wins for the week. Who's had some success this week that they want to share? We're going to talk about some challenges later on, but I would love to hear of some success stories to start with. Let me know what's happened this week that was a success for you. It doesn't have to be in your online business, but tell me about something that's happened that you've been happy with. I've had some incredible stuff happen, and I'm going to talk to you about that as well. As always with our webinars, we're going to offer the opportunity to ask some questions. Figuring out LinkedIn, that's a nice one. So have you had a win with that one? I've got an initials there instead of a name, SR, figuring out LinkedIn. Picked up a new coaching client, says Olga. That's great, Olga. That's fantastic. Well done. Hopefully a nice long-term relationship there as well. So some good wins coming through. Fantastic. Always love to hear it. Still struggling with my camera V. Wow, so hard to get everything working in the right way. Kathy's bought a few domains and still getting those up and sorted, which is always good. Do you know what? Like, I don't even have, this is crazy, guys. I do not even have the option to to share my screen. Hardly a guru, Olga, but thank you for the boost. Okay, so a couple of wins. That's good. I like the buying some domains, Kathy. Maybe trying to find some buyers there. We can talk about that later on. So, guys, one of the things that we do in our webinars, if you haven't been on one of the webinars before, is that we offer the chance for you to ask a question. So, what have you been struggling with? Where have you got up to? What's a roadblock that you've come up against? We may have a quick solution that changes a lot of things for you, or we may be able to slot that into next week's webinar, or we may be able to get some information out to you later on. So don't type it now, or you can type it if you want to and save it for later. But I'd love to hear your questions. I had 2 questions come through on the reply emails when we've invited everyone to the webinar during the week. So we've got those to cover. So those questions revolve around getting started and doing things when we don't have a lot of free cash. So Kathy's just asked a great question there, so maybe we can talk about that a little bit later on, Kathy, or I can actually answer that one pretty quickly. So let me just grab Kathy's question. It relates to our domain product. So one of our products is a system that allows you to find good high value domains and be able to buy them for cheap. And for me, that's a side hustle that anyone can do. Kathy says, so she's bought a couple of domains. how does she sell them? Should she get them onto a website? Should I go with MetaDomainer? So my answer to that is simple, Kathy. I use MetaDomainer for everything, with a very small exception. And that very small exception is when I build out for content. So if I'm building an Amazon site, for example, or I'm building a content site that I'm then going for paid ads with, I don't use MetaDomainer. But if it's just literally buy it and sell it, then yes, I put MetaDomainer on it. Sorry, excuse me. Because it's an easy way to get that domain looking like it's ready. You don't need to host it. It's just easy. So yes, I would 100% recommend MetaDomainer. I use it for everything. And in terms of getting it out onto a website so that you can sell it, you can use something like Afternic if you just put the domain up for sale. But the best way of making sales I've found for domains is reaching out to people personally. So there's some training inside of the PRH program that shows you how to reach out to people. We've got a couple of programs that help you do that as well. But like we showed, go into Facebook groups, go into LinkedIn operations, go into places where the people who are your ideal domain buyers hang out, and just let them know about the details. So Tycho says, in the same vein, I have Amazon products on a domain. What do I do with it after someone buys it? Tycho, so when you have a domain and you sell it, you're selling the business, you're selling the domain as well. So if somebody buys that domain, you're just literally transferring that across to them. And again, that's covered in the training in the PRH system, how to transfer a domain to another buyer, and that will help them out. So cool. Guys, I'd love to hear about your questions, not just about domaining, but if there's anything that you're struggling with. We're going to talk today about advertising, and we're going to talk about outsourcing. That's my two topics for this week. So that's kind of my focus, but I would love to hear what you're working with. Kathy also asked, what do I use to rent out domains? Kathy, I own a lifetime copy of a shopping cart called Thrive Cart, which means I don't pay any transaction fees, and I set it up on there. So I just set up a monthly recurring payment. But the easy way to do that, if you're using PayPal, for example, or Stripe, you can set up a recurring invoice, and you can even use traditional accounting software for that. So Xero or something along that line. But I use Thrivecart, which allows me to create a button that I can say how much per month, and then when somebody rents it from me, they literally click it, they input their credit card details, comes through to me, and automatically rebills them. I can't recommend that highly enough because you don't have to chase up. So create a subscription on PayPal. That one's free to do, just a little bit more tricky. But if you own a shopping cart system where you're not paying any transaction fees, you can create a subscription button, set the monthly subscription price, send the domain out to the people, and when they click on it, they just enter their credit card details and away they go. So, sorry guys, I've got, this is my, I don't know what's happening there, but I've got a bit of a cough this morning, so forgive me. Let's kick in. So I do have my PowerPoint presentation behind me, and then we can't show it, but I'm going to walk through it anyway because it'll keep me on track, and hopefully we can sort things out. Kathy said she'd love to hear about outsourcing, so yeah, we're going to cover that, Kathy, and see what we can come up against. So one of the things that, again, if you haven't been on one of my webinars before, actually that's a great thing. Who's been on one of my webinars before? Who's been on one of my teaching webinars where we talk about overcoming the challenges? Who has been up to date? Who's been with us on one of those before? Tycho has, cool. And Tycho, to answer your question several times, is Ovi, great. And Olga with us on PRH, cool. Ovi, you were with us last time. Ovi, what did you think of the last webinar when we had a training webinar? I think it was about 10 days ago. How did you go with that one? Kathy's the first one on. Cool, good to see you. All right, so a couple of people saying first time, a couple of people been with us before. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is you can start where you are with what you have, and you can succeed. So I need you guys to understand that there's a lot of people out there that are, me included, constantly buying new stuff, hoping that that's going to be the thing that helps them get to where they want to go. I can categorically remember buying a specific thing, which was Michael Same's Butterfly Marketing about 10 years ago, which he then made free later on. But I paid $1,800 for that program. I couldn't afford it. I was broken and really struggling, and that was a lot of money. And it was the purchase of that that made me get off my butt and do something, because I thought, my God, what have I just done? I've spent money I don't have, and I need to make it work. And that was my catalyst. But at the same time, I've also been guilty of buying a lot of stuff and not using it. So I talk about all the time, you can start where you are with what you have, and you can be successful. And that's something that I really wanted to talk to you guys about. There's a lot of knowledge out there. There's a lot of strategy out there. But today we're going to talk about the fundamentals of earning money as part of my presentation. So it's really interesting. I spent, I don't know, 2 hours yesterday doing all my slides and making sure my animations were all right. And I'm the only one that can see them. So that's okay. We'll talk it through. So this week we are going to talk about advertising. We're going to talk about outsourcing, and I want to answer your questions. So think about where you're up to in your business. The fact that you're here tells me most of you have an online business. Who's also still working a job? So give me a 1 if you have a job and you're trying to set something up on the side on the internet, or well, give me a 2 if the internet is your sole area of earning money. Okay, ones. What have we got? Mostly 1. So most people are working a job. Hey, Pete. Most people are working a job and putting something together on the side. A couple of people have put in a 2 where they've set this up as their sole source of income. That's cool. So a bit of a mix, but mostly 1s. Okay, still working a job. Cool. That's a great place to start from. It was not until I was making about $8,000 a month that I stopped my job and changed to working full-time online, and made a lot of mistakes at that point and lost my $8,000 a month income, which I go through in a different story. So that was a mistake. But SR, can I address you by your name, or do you prefer to be known as your initials? SR, whoever SR is, has popped in there that they have the internet as their only source of income. Sheila, thank you. So Sheila has the internet as the only source of income, but hasn't got any income yet. Well, cool. That's a good point for us this morning. So we're going to talk through that as well. So advertising, outsourcing, your questions. What do you need to know? Really have a think about it, because I make my time available and I want you guys to take advantage of it. So if you've got something that is specific, let me know, and we can certainly have a look at that for you and see what we can come up with. And then I'm also going to talk about what's coming up this week and a few other bits and pieces. So let me jump into it. So Sheila, this is probably from your perspective as well. This was one of the questions I got during the week. So when we send out the invitation to the webinar, I ask people if you'd like to reply, let me know what you'd like to cover. And this was a reply from John. So John says, "Hi Walt, I'm brand new to this digital marketing business, but I'm not new to business overall. Any helpful advice you can provide and how to avoid costly mistakes would be highly appreciated." John goes on to say, I have an MBA from the University of California, etc., etc. And would just basically wants to know how to get started in this whole online marketing space. So I thought, well, that's a great starting point, and I just wanted to cover off some things there. And again, I'm doing this face to camera, but I am reading off my PowerPoint presentation here. So the thing I wanted to cover with that particular question for John and for Sheila and for anybody who's looking to do anything with business, not just online, but anything on business, the fundamentals of earning money. The fundamentals of earning money are simple. First of all, guys, if you've got a pen and paper, now's the time to stop to write stuff down. First of all, have something to sell. Okay, now that sounds obvious, right? But can I ask you right now here on the call, put a 1 in the chat box if you have something to sell. If I could go somewhere right now to a website where you have a payment button and I could pay you money, okay? A couple of ones, great. Put a 2 in the chat box for me. Put a 2 in the chat box. Hey, Russ, put a 2 in the chat box for me if you don't have anything to sell yet. Put a 2 in the chat box if you don't have a product, if you haven't got anything that I could go and literally I could buy from you. A couple of 2s as well. Okay, so 90% of you have got something to sell. That's great. So step number 1, have something to sell. And if you don't, I'll tell you a couple of little tips there of ways that you can do that quickly. And the second part of that is have someone to sell it to. Have someone to sell it to. So again, wow, mind blown. No, it's not. It's not the world's most deep philosophy. But if I've got something to sell and someone to sell it to, then I can make money. But here's the challenge. Here's the challenge. Most people, that's a good question. I'll come back to that. Most people have something to sell and then madly go about looking for customers. And again, everything that I'm mentioning here, guys, I'm guilty as well, right? So most of us go, hey, I've got something cool. Who wants to buy it? Anyone. And we go out there and we try and drum up business. And that is, nothing wrong with that model. It's just that it's hard work and it's expensive in a lot of cases. On a previous webinar, and again, I'm happy for you guys to ask me any questions about my story as well. But a couple of years ago, I put $500,000 into something that I thought would be a great business online, and I didn't ever get it open. I literally didn't get a single customer, and we lost $500,000, like set fire to $500,000. That was a massive lesson, obviously. I wish I'd learned it a little bit cheaper. But let's have a look at the reverse of that. So the fundamentals: have something to sell, have someone to sell it to. The reverse of that is to have the audience first and the product second. Now, there are different ways to go about that, and I just wanted to explain it a little bit. So if you can find the audience first and the product second, you already know you're going to be able to make sales. So you're going to be able to shortcut a lot of the heartache of getting started. So how do we build an audience? And that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit this morning, and make money quickly at the same time. So even if you have got a product right now, okay, which 90% of the people on the call do, let's think about how we can look at the audience for that product. So I did an interview yesterday. One of the things that we do, guys, whenever I say we, it's me as a family business, right? So it's me, my wife, the kids. We have a team of people, we have programmers, we have support staff. So I always say we, but in terms of what's happening on the front, it's me. So I did an interview yesterday. We as a company did an interview yesterday with an incredibly talented person who has built a business, and they had a product that was related, a product that did a specific something. Let's just go down that path. But what they found was the product that they had, they were trying to do what I was just saying there. They built this amazing product. Who wants to buy it? 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 And they were struggling. And so they changed tact about 8 months ago. And what they did was they said, right, who are my best customers for this product? Who are my #1 customers? And what do they all have in common? And what they found was that group of customers were all passionate about one thing, and that's why they were buying the product. So instead of trying to sell the product, what these guys have completely pivoted and done is they started focusing on the common factor with their customers, and they started creating content around that common element, and that naturally built an audience that fed their product. Does that make sense? So they literally weren't going out with advertising trying to sell their product anymore. What they were doing was going out with advertising about their content. Hey, we know about this, we've researched this. If you're into this environment, then make sure that you pick up this free guide, download this, whatever. And they've started building their audience, and that just naturally fed into the product. For me, that was a very, very intelligent way to go. And the episode releases in a couple of days. So you guys will be able to get that through our podcast or whatever, and get all of the details and what we're talking about. But what it blew my mind right there to think, hang on a second, these guys literally stopped trying to sell their product, and they started making sure that their customers and their interests were catered for first. Does that make sense? And I went, whoa. So for example, let's just take something as a random example, okay? And we say a personal injury lawyer, so a personal injury lawyer, their customers obviously have had a personal injury. It goes without saying, right? They've had a car crash, or they're in a hospital, or they have been injured at work or something like that, right? What do they all have in common? They've been injured, okay? And they need money fast, and they need to whatever. So instead of trying to sell the personal injury law services that they have, what about if they had content about how to fill in the paperwork for getting injured at work, like how to get admitted to a hospital quickly, how to choose your doctor in a hurry, how to skip the waiting line, how to whatever. Like I could probably think of a whole bunch more things, but it might even be a bad example to think of a personal injury lawyer, because they need someone now. They're probably looking for that service, which is why personal injury lawyers charge so much. But if you can talk to your customer group about what they want and build that audience and I guess curate that audience, then the sales automatically happen. So let's think about good examples of that, where we have Apple, great example, Apple. So Apple, their biggest product still is the iPhone, but that's changing, which is interesting. But I've always said to my wife, Apple is not trying to sell iPhones. What they're trying to do is make the infrastructure so good that people don't change. And movies, games, apps, all of that stuff, that's the real business of Apple. Even though they make more money selling iPhones than anything else, they make more profit from their software, because software is a high profit industry. So the reality is they've built this area where people go, wow, I want all of that stuff. How do I get it? I need to buy one of those phones. Okay, cool, no problem. And they're incredibly amazing at this marketing. But when I did this interview yesterday, I thought, wow, that's a great strategy. And so for you guys that said, yes, we've got products to sell, have a think about that. Like just write down across the top, what do my customers have in common? And can I develop a campaign, if you like, and we're going to talk about advertising in just a second. Can I develop a campaign that touches on that and then steer them through into my product, rather than trying to sell the product first? Guys, does that make sense? Like, just let me know. Am I on the right path? Let me give you one. All that kind of stuff. Cool, 111. Yay, great. So makes a bit of sense. Okay. Nice. Relationship marketing. Yeah, more than that as well, Russ. More than just relationship marketing. More about it's almost about gathering all of the people that have the same commonality together, and then being the person that is able to sell their products to them. So Ovi asked an interesting question on that. So let me answer that, Ovi. Ovi asks, if I have a good group of business addresses and people, can I sell that as B2B lead generation? Look, I don't know the legalities of where you are, Ovi, but I can only tell you from a personal standpoint. If somebody did that with my information, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed, and I can't imagine anybody not being. So there's lots of lead generation services out there, and just the other day, I had somebody pop up in my support desk with a business proposal, and they said, we have the names and addresses of 100,000 people who use Trustpilot. Would you like to buy that list of us for your rep porn business? And I must admit, my finger hesitated for probably 2 seconds, and then I had to let my ethics take over and click the delete button so that my temptation wasn't there. because that would have been like shooting fish in a barrel for me. That would have been too easy. But it's not the right thing to do. It's, in a lot of cases, it's illegal to actually buy names and addresses that haven't been made publicly available. There's a difference there. That if there's a name and an address that somebody puts up on a website, you're allowed to contact that person. That's actually been, there's a couple of court cases that have been about that. And again, you need to check your own legality in your own area. But if somebody puts their address on a website and you email that person can't then come back and say, you shouldn't have emailed me. It's not spam. You've put your email in a public domain. You've invited people to contact you. So in other words, if the email address is public, it becomes a public method of communication, like a telephone number. Again, if you put your telephone number on your site and somebody calls you because they saw your telephone number, you can't then say, this is a private number. It's not anymore. You made it public. Same with the email address. But Ovi, to answer your question, again, check your legality. But the reality is, from my perspective, if somebody's got my business information and they sell it, then that's an abuse of trust. Again, there's lots of lead generation people and programs and platforms out there, but the majority of them are doing it the right way, and they are getting people and asking people, are you interested in this particular service? And if they say yes, then you can sell the lead. Anyway, a name on a list is not necessarily a lead also, says Olga. That's so true. A name on a list is definitely not a lead. And if you go to somewhere like Fiverr and you type in lead generation, you'll have a million responses of people that have got name and email lists and will happily sell them to you. And that's not a lead. That really isn't a lead. That's very, very barely a contact. It's a nothing. And when you get that cold email in your inbox, it's not something that most people respond to. Still, you have a 1% response rate if you've got the right industry. Coffee, don't forget it's 5 a.m. for me. Okay, cool. Pete. Okay, Pete, I'm going to come to your question because that's a good one. I'll come to it a bit later on. So, fundamentals of earning money, something to sell, someone to sell it to. Let's make sure that we focus on the right way of doing that. My next slide says audience is everything. Audiences is everything, okay? Paul asks, will there be a replay? Yes, I hope so, Paul. Audience is everything. So there are different audiences, and I've got 3. Again, I've done my PowerPoint beautifully, and I've got this nice animation happening here, but I'll just tell you about it. There are 3 different types of audiences. Pause. Do you have a pen and paper? Are you sitting there with a pen and paper? Because really write this down. I don't have an answer for that. Oh, Siri doesn't have. Something else I can help with. Siri doesn't have a pen and paper. She's just told me that she's not able to answer my question. I don't know where that came from. Do you have a pen and paper? Write this down. This is something that might help massively. So we're talking about audiences. There are 3 types of audiences that I want to talk about. The first is an email subscriber, okay? An email subscriber. Now, you most likely will know what that is. That's where someone has said, yes, this is my email address, and you can contact me. That is an email subscriber, okay? That's somebody that we call, in the industry, we say they are on your list, okay? They're on your list. That is an email subscriber. That's one type of audience that you can build. The second type that I want to talk about is broadcast audiences. So broadcasting, we have YouTube audiences, Instagram, podcasts, okay? People who are following your content that you've not necessarily engaged with, but they are rabid fans of whatever it is that you're putting out there, okay? And the third type of audiences that I just wanted to address is what's called pixel audiences, okay? Pixel audiences. And they go in a scale up the chain, so that we start with a pixel audience, we move to a broadcast audience, and they end up being an email subscriber. The email subscriber, in my opinion, is still the highest value of an audience, but the hardest to get. Guys, can you just give me a 1 or a 2 in relation to pixels and Facebook advertising, Google advertising, pixel-based audiences? Give me a 1 if you know what that is and how to set it up. Give me a 2 if that's a mile out of your comfort zone. Combination of both, predominantly twos. Okay, man, I wish I could share my screen. Okay, so some ones, predominantly twos. So most people, most people have said, I don't know how to set up a pixel audience. So let me cover that off for you, because this is really important. Of the people that have put twos in there, so I'm speaking to Kathy, Pete, Ovi, Tycho, the guys that have put a 2, do you have your own website that you control? So if it's a WordPress site, do you control it? Have you got the logins? Do you post the content? If it's a convertory site, again, have you got, so do you have a website that you control, or are you existing with people that are doing the website for you? Either way is fine. Most people are saying yes, they have a website that they control. Okay, cool. So first of all, let me tell you what a pixel audience is and why it's so valuable. A pixel audience, what is a pixel for a start? A pixel, if we go back far enough, is one tiny little micro dot of a graphic on your page. So, you know, whenever you buy a digital camera these days that says it's got 17 million pixels, or, you know, some of those kind of numbers, or you buy a nice new TV and it's got 65 billion pixels per inch, or etc. Okay, pixels are a tiny little graphic dot. And what is a pixel audience? What you can actually do with Facebook, with Google, with LinkedIn, all of those platforms, Twitter as well, Instagram's linked to Facebook, but all of them, is that you can go into their advertising section and you can create what's called a tracking pixel. And it's not complicated. Okay, it's not complicated. With Facebook, again, I wish I could show my screen, but with Facebook, in the advertising section, you literally just click create a pixel. It says, okay, name your pixel. You say pixel is my name, and then it says, great, your pixel is now created, and here's the piece of code. You just copy that code and paste it onto your website. That's why I said, do you have a website that you control? Kathy, you've said you don't have a website that you control, and you don't have a website at all. Can I suggest, humbly, from my heart, that you will need one at some point? Okay, you can get a domain for $10. You can get it hosted for, as let's say, $5 a month. So let's say $10 for the domain, $5 a month is $60 for the year. And then WordPress is free, and there's a million different training tutorials on how to set it up and how to have your own site. But at some point, you will need a site. A lot of people spruik the idea that you can make money online without a website. You don't even need a website. That's true, but at some point, somebody's going to ask you for your website. Somebody's going to say to you, what's your website? And if you say, I don't have one, immediately you're not online, you're not visible, you're nothing. So Kathy, make that your goal, okay? So a landing page is a website. A landing page is definitely a website, okay? By the way, guys, this is a great hookup. Sheila says she would love to help Kathy. Kathy, you want to sell and rent domains. What type of domain name do I get? I would suggest something businessy. So I would stay away from kathyanderson.com for a business website. I've got waltbayliss.com, okay, but I sell my domains from, I've got sumhub.com and I've got bulkdomainsforsale.com. So I would pick something businessy. Why? Because then you can separate it. And what do I mean by that? I can't sell waltbayliss.com to anyone, okay? But I can sell bulksaledomains.com to someone if I want to later on down the track. So get a domain that kind of represents what you're doing in business, and again, it just makes it easy to present yourself. Okay, so back to pixels. So now let's say if you don't have a website, go and get one. Okay, if they really are free. If you've got someone that looks after your website for you, that's cool. Copy and paste the code and send it to the people that look after your website and say, please put this on every page of my website. Now, what happens as soon as you do that? As soon as you've got a pixel on your website, you start building this audience. You can't see them, okay? It's not like you can log in and say, how many billions of people have I got on my audience? There's not like a big list that you have. You can't hit a button and broadcast out to them. But that audience you can target with your marketing, okay? It's the cheapest method of creating an audience, okay? It's the least effective, but it is a method. I would rather have 500,000 people on a pixel audience, okay, than, let's pick another number, than 500 people on an email database. If I've got 500,000 on my pixel audience versus 500 email subscribers, I'll take the pixel audience because I know that I can get some marketing down that channel. So in steps, if you've never done this before, just Google how to set up a Facebook pixel, okay? Don't buy anything. You're going to get a lot of people that will try and sell you the courses on it. You don't need to buy anything. Just watch a video, watch a YouTube video. Setting up a Facebook pixel is really literally very easy. You go into Facebook, into the advertising area, create a pixel, copy and paste, put it on your domain. Now, I'll keep going with that because it's really super important. If you can build the audience, you can start to market to them. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on. But please just understand that building an audience, step one are these pixel audiences, okay? Pixel audiences. They're free, okay? And Olga says you can start stalking your audience all over the internet. She's put it stalking. It's exactly what it is. You can, if you've had people come and let's say that, again, I'm trying to think of a niche here. If you sell services, you're an accountant and you sell services to the local business, accounting services, and you start building content about business in your local area, anybody that comes to your page is potentially a customer. And these pixels allow you to now advertise only to the people that have seen your content. So instead of broadcasting your message out to everybody saying, please buy my accountant services, please come and pay me a fee. If you've got good content about business in your area, people are seeing that content. Now you can target your advertising to only the people that have seen that content. They're obviously interested. Again, I'm going to talk about it, but it's free to set up and it's free to build those audiences, okay? That alone should make it something that you want to grab hold of. It's free to set up and it's free to build, okay? Facebook pixel is probably the one that's talked about the most, but while you're on a roll, put a Google pixel on there as well, and that comes with Google Analytics. Again, it's free. It's exactly the same process. Copy and paste a little thing that gets created, a piece of code, put it on your website or get the person who looks after your website to do it for you. And again, if you don't know where to put it, and that's fine. Somebody 5 years ago said to me, put this on your website. I would go, how? I don't know. All right. If you don't know where to put it, that's fine. You can ask me, you can send me an email. My email address is walt@waltbayliss.com. Walt@waltbayliss.com. You can send me an email and say, well, hey, Walt, I'm stuck, and I'll help you. All right. But you can watch a YouTube video. If you don't know where to put it, you put it in a very special place, a very dedicated place, which is called the header. Okay. And put your Facebook pixel, put your Google pixel, put your LinkedIn pixel and Twitter pixel. Why not? Okay, because now you're starting to build audiences that you will be very, very grateful for later on. Okay, so that's audience level number one. The next kind of audience that I talked about was broadcast audiences. Okay, so level one audiences are free to build and free to get started. They take very little effort, and they just will happen in the background, but please make sure you're doing it. Number two is a broadcast audience, okay? So we're talking now YouTube, Instagram, content, podcasts, people that subscribe to hear what you've got to say, okay? Now, these also are free to build, but they take a lot more work. So let me tell you, from doing the podcast, it does take a lot of work. There's a lot of organization that goes into getting guests and recording and editing and doing all that sort of stuff. Okay, and I've done a lot of interviews with YouTube superstars, and again, it's a big deal. So building those audiences, everybody loves to look at the influencers and think, wow, I could do that, but it's not as easy as just turning on the camera. You really need to have a plan, okay? And it took me years to even have the plan of the podcast. Not that planning the podcast took years, but it took me years to understand what kind of content I wanted to create in that space and how I was going to present it. There are great stories of people that I'm trying to think of a different example, but I've only got one in my head, so I'm going to go with it. There are great stories of people that look good in a bathing suit and have taken a couple of pictures on Instagram and suddenly have millions of subscribers. Great, brilliant, fantastic. Blessings, well done. There's people who don't look good in a bathing suit, like me. Believe me, the reality is you need something a little bit different. So you need an edge. You need something to be unique. You need something to be interesting. You need something to be that you're able to speak about. Now, what if you're not able to speak about anything? What if you think I'm boring? I don't do fishing. I'm not into cooking. All that kind of stuff. Fine, no problems at all. Start broadcasting your journey from nothing. Now, again, you've got to have 1 viewer, 2 viewers, 5 viewers. But just start. It is free. It's going to take you at least 50 tries to get something that you're actually happy with. So you may as well get those 50 out of the way. Start by turning on the camera, or start by writing a blog post that just says, hey, this is my first one and I have no idea. And if you'd like to follow along while I try and achieve this, I'm trying to build an online business, and this is day 1 for me. So come along with my journey. By the end of your journey, a couple of years, you're going to have people who followed you and who are loyal subscribers. So level 1 is that pixel audience. It's uninvasive. It's not invasive. In other words, people coming to your site, they don't have to fill anything in. They just become part of your audience because you've got that pixel on there. Broadcast audiences take a bit more work. Again, it's free, but you need to have content going out there. And the third level is what I call email subscribers. So your pixel audience, your broadcast audience should be all leading towards getting that email address, okay? And if you can build that content and have a good delivery, you can bring people into the point where they're trading their email to you. And at that point, you've got the highest level of an audience, and now you can really start that relationship with them, okay? Audiences. Guys, has that been helpful? Just give me a 1 if that's been helpful at all. If it's something you think, yeah, I really need to do that. Anytime your brain says to you, wow, I really do need to do that, then please do it. There's so many things that I look at on my list and I think to myself, wow, I really need to do that. And I make it into something bigger than it needs to be. And then when I actually sit down and do it, it's something that takes me 15 minutes and I go, wow, I can't believe I got that done. All right, everybody says it was useful. Thanks, team. Appreciate it. Okay, so audiences. Start building them. You need to have them so that you can make sales. Right. After audiences, on my Olga says she's guilty of doing the same thing. We're all in this together. Olga. Right. After audiences, now we've started to look at how we're going to build people through to have this audience. Guys, please also understand that as you build an audience, one of the questions that's going to come into your mind is, yeah, but isn't it expensive to build that database and I don't have anything to sell? Let me tell you, it's far more expensive not to have the audience. For the first 2 years that I was selling software online, and we sold a lot, like we sold, I don't know, 10, 12,000 pieces of software in a couple of years, which is a big number. And I wasn't even capturing the email addresses. And oh my God, the amount of money that I just let go by not doing it. Yes, it's expensive when you start to get 20, 30, 50,000 people on your list, it's expensive, but you recoup that the next time you do a promotion and you click send. So please make sure you do it. Right, after audiences, what do you have to sell? What do you have to sell? So for the most people, you guys said you had something to sell. Can you just type in there, type for me, what is it that I can buy from you? Somebody said before, an app, services, app page NZ was Sheila. Software says Ovi. What else do you guys have to sell? What are you selling? What can I buy from you? Software, services, Who's an accountant? What are you guys selling? Pete, what are you selling? Video creation apps, says Takeo. Local business SEO services, says Pete. Awesome. Cool. Cool. Pete, I'm going to pick on you. Thanks for answering. So, and actually, Takeo, I'm going to pick on you too. Because I love you, Takeo. You've been with me for a little while, and I've really enjoyed getting your emails as they've come through. So, Pete sells local business SEO services. Pete, somebody comes to you. They know that you do local business SEO services. In other words, they've got a friend who's used your services, and now their website's ranking super well, and everybody loves Pete. That's great. Somebody comes to you, Pete, and says, hey, Pete, can you do Facebook advertising for me? What's your answer? And I'm specifically talking to Pete right now. Pete, what's your answer? I'm not going to put words into your mouth. Somebody says to you, hey, Pete, you did my buddy's website and now he's ranking really well. What I need is Facebook marketing. Do you do that too? Pete says, yes, I do. Okay, cool. Let me try something else then. Somebody says, hey, Pete, I really need to create a new LinkedIn marketing strategy. Can you do that? Pete, give me a yes or a no. Kathy, I'll ask more about that in a second. Pete says yes. Okay, cool. I'll try one more, Pete. Keep answering honestly. Keep answering honestly. And I'm trying to get to. But so this is way outside, all right? So, Pete, do you provide legal services? Pete, I'm asking you. Pete, I need some legal services. Pete says no with a capital letter. Phew, gee, I didn't know how far I was going to have to go there. But that brings me to the point. So Pete, when I asked what we sell, Pete says I sell local SEO services, which is fantastic, right? So then somebody comes to Pete and says, can you do Facebook marketing? Pete says, yeah, sure, I can do Facebook marketing, no problem at all. What about LinkedIn marketing? Yeah, sure, no problem, I can do LinkedIn marketing. What about, Pete, I need some legal advice. And Pete goes, no, I don't do that. Darn it, I wish I did. Okay. So in my last webinar, and Obi was here, I talked about what I call the Rolodex method. The Rolodex method. And I do encourage you guys to do this, the Rolodex method. The Rolodex method for me exists like this. It's like, do you do this? No, but I've got a guy. That's it. No, but I've got a guy, right? And there's a few people that I've worked with in the past that I've got a great relationship with. And I literally reach out to them and say, hey, every now and again, somebody asks me about services that I don't provide, but that you do. If I bring you somebody like that, would you be happy to look after me with a spotter's fee? Okay, or a referral fee, okay? And if you've got people in your world that are related to the services you provide, but not competitive, get together. All right. Again, I did an interview with someone on the podcast, and we talked about this concept of five, the concept of five. And he said, if everyone in business did this concept of five, you could have more business than you'd ever possibly deal with. And the concept of five literally goes like this: pick 5 people who are in related businesses but non-competitive, and get together with them. Get together with them. And you don't have to do it in person, although that's a great way to do it. Okay. But you can just literally reach out to someone and say, so Pete does local business SEO services, reaches out to someone who's in a law practice that's in their local area and says, hey, my name's Pete. I come across business owners all the time, and there's a pretty good chance I'm going to come across somebody who needs legal services at some point. I just wondered if we can form a relationship and I can send you those people every now and again if they come across, right? Tell me a business owner that would say no. Okay, so the Rolodex method. So I'm talking about having a product to sell. Okay, so I love the fact that Pete had one particular businesses that they do, and he was also able to say, yes, we do this, yes, we do that, yes, we do that. Because in my last webinar, when I talked about the Rolodex method, what I said was you can make fast money by answering people's problems. And how do you answer people's problems? First, you have to have them as an audience or have a way of connecting with them and ask them the question. Okay, what do you need in your business right now? I need Facebook marketing services. Okay, I have a guy. I can get someone to look after that for you. You know, are you up to pay $500 a month? Yeah, sure, I'd pay $500 a month. Cool. So I go to my guy who's going to charge me $300 a month, and I say, I've got you a new customer. They pay me $500, I pay you $300, and we move forward. The Rolodex method, okay, the wholesale services method. Very, very cool way to make fast money. Taiko, I said I'm going to pick on you as well. You said you have video creating apps, right? Oh, can you guys just give me one? Who's bought the there's everybody's inbox has exploded this week with the what's it called? Video dashboard. Who's bought video dashboard? Give me a one if you bought video dashboard this week. Paul Ponner's new product. I think I've seen that they made 7,000 sales. Okay, one. Almost everyone. Pizza's not yet one. Harmitz is one. I'm about to, says Jeremy. Cool. So for those who said one, what was your purpose for buying it? And that's my only question. I love it. Don't get me wrong in any way. I wish that I'd released it because wow, to make 7,000 sales in a few days is incredible. Hats off to Paul. Paul's been an incredible software vendor for a very long time. He's got a great reputation, and it is an incredible product. But I would love to know, what was your purpose? What was your reason for buying it? So Harlot says for the scheduling calendar. That's a great reason. So you bought it so that you could schedule the content going out on those things. To leverage my time, says Olga. It's cutting edge and relevant, says Taiko. Yeah, cool, awesome. Great. I'm happy to hear that. Used for my own site, says Sheila. Okay, cool. I'm happy to hear that, gang, because when I see 7,000 sales, I think to myself, wow, that's so amazing. Please make sure that you've got a strategy for it. I haven't bought it yet. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just haven't said to myself, what will I use it for? I'm glad you guys have got like a plan, right? So now please do me a favor. Please do me a favor. Please activate your plan before this time next week. Okay, before this time next week, do what you bought it for, because we all do it. We all buy stuff and don't use it. So you've bought this amazing tool. There's been a whole bunch of them this week. Make sure you put it into use. Yeah, just make sure we do that. So Taika, you said video creating apps is something that you sell. Does it make sense that you could also then sell website hosting, SEO services through Pete if you organized a good relationship there? Does it make sense that if you've got this Rolodex, you can refer people to each other? And that concept of 5 is a very, very strong one. Does it make sense, guys? Again, just let me know. Kathy, you said you sell hope. Kathy, what do you mean? Kathy says, I sell hope. Kathy, can you tell me what you mean? Actually, if anybody, I don't know if this is the new GoToWebinar update. So Kathy's going to type for me in just a second. We're going to come back to it. But first, we talked about audiences. We need a product to sell and we need people to sell them to. And I've talked about building that audience of people to sell them to. Even if you don't have anything to sell, you can build an audience and sell referral services and make excellent money. Okay, really you can. So this is another way of creating a product. All right, so guys, pause. I don't know, elephants, just to give you a word that brings you back. All right, pattern interrupt. This is a method that I call the give a talk method. Give a talk method. So now I've got an audience. We've started to pixel people, and I really want to have something to sell. Okay, I want to make some money. Right, this is my give a talk method. The give a talk method goes like this. If somebody put you on the spot right now and said, you've got 60 seconds that you have to talk about something in your life that you do on stage to a group of people, forgetting the stage fright element, what would you talk about? What would you have enough knowledge about to talk about? Could I record you for 60 seconds? This is what I call the give a talk method. All right. So I put a tape recorder in front of you and I say, you've got 60 seconds to talk to me about something that you have a good experience with. Could you do it? No, that's a wrong question. Everybody could do it. What's the thing that you could talk about? If I put a tape recorder in front of you and I said, talk for 60 seconds about something really that you strongly believe in, what could you talk about? And Kathy's typed there, which is great. I'm going to come back to Kathy in just a second. So what could you talk about if somebody put that in your world? Somebody put a tape recorder in front of you and said, talk for 60 seconds about something that's deep inside you. Tycho says buying and selling domains, fantastic. What else have we got? Making money online, says Ovi, cool, awesome. Fishing, says Pete, fantastic. What else have we got? So there's a couple there, they're starting to come through, cool. So this is a method that just can maybe open a door for you, okay? What could you talk about passionately for 60 seconds without stopping, okay? And whatever it is that you've answered, honestly, get your phone, turn the record button on and speak. Wow, I'm so passionate about this because I love it. This is what it's done for me. I've been doing it for this many years. This is what I found, some tips. I really like this strategy. One of the mistakes I made was this one. I've had some success doing it this way. Like, just talk for 60 seconds, okay? And then just pause for a second. You could get that blabbing, free-form talk where you haven't had any preparation converted into a PDF, okay? And then you could pay someone $10 to edit it, and now you've got a really valuable thing that you now have as a product to sell. Now, who are you going to sell that to? If it's fishing, or as Patrick said, repairing a garage door, you could sell that to building repair groups, Facebook groups who are doing home renovations or whatever, or fishing groups or something. But what I'm saying is that everybody has a product inside them that they can start with by just imagining that give a talk. What could I give a talk about? Okay. Another method that I actually used to teach a lot of people, and especially relevant when I just asked you guys who bought the video dashboard one. A lot of people come into the online money space and they're like, how do I get started? How do I build a list? And my question is, what have you just bought? And so let's say, for example, the video dashboard, or maybe you've bought an XYZ Facebook marketing training program, or whatever software program. Okay, whatever you've just bought, here's an idea. Document and record on a video if you can, a screen share video. There's some free ones out there. Okay, how to use it. How to use it. Really, like not just the tutorials. And the video can go something like this. Hi, I'm Jim, and I just bought Video Dashboard because it looks really amazing and I wanted to use it for my own business, and I thought about doing this and I wanted to do that. So I've just bought it, and this is me using it, and I just wanted to sort of like share my ideas. So this is how to set it up. Okay, cool. This is me logging into the dashboard. This is me creating some different things and bits and pieces. This is not working. Okay, let me reach out to the product and make sure that they answer that. Literally record the video of you using this app. Okay, and then you can go back to the product vendor and you can say, hey, I bought your product. I really like your product. I've done a tutorial on using the product in a real case. I just wondered if you wouldn't mind putting a link to my tutorial or to this video that I did in your members area. Okay. Hey, Paul, in this case, Paul Ponner, who created the video dashboard. Hey, Paul, great product. Now, Paul's probably not going to do this, but other people will. Okay. Again, I know Paul personally. He's a great guy, but he has a billion people on his list, and he won't give it away for anything. But so maybe not the best example, but actually, I'll give you a real example. I released a product years ago, which was called RunClick, which was using Google Hangouts and WordPress to create a pseudo webinar environment. My first venture into the webinar space, and the somebody bought RunClick, okay, and then like we were still in launch week, we were still like doing all the big promotion and all that kind of stuff, and I was checking on JVZoo. And on JVZoo, someone had created a product called RunClick Tactics and Tricks. And I went, wow, that's so brilliant. I love that person did that. And they were selling it for $9 or $12 or whatever. But the cool thing was, the product that was launching was mine, was RunClick, was getting a lot of promotion. Lots of people had RunClick in every inbox and RunClick, the same as Video Dashboard everywhere, okay? And because of that, they capitalized, they did some tips and tricks, put up a short thingy and made it for sale for $12. Now, who knows how many sales they make? They didn't reach out to me to do it, okay? But who knows how many sales they made? But wow, what an awesome way to capitalize on an event, okay? I was sitting at an airport not very long ago, and I was talking to my wife about airline travel, and we love that whole thing. And I looked out the window and I just paused for a minute, and I couldn't believe it as I looked across the tarmac. You know when you're sitting, you're waiting to board, and I looked across out at the tarmac, and I started counting how many businesses and industries have been developed because of the airline industry. It's just incredible. You've got the baggage handlers. That's a massive company that is contracted to the airport. Okay, you've got the caterers, you've got the cleaning crew, you've got the tires of the plane, the mechanics, the airline maintenance, the obviously the pilots and the airport itself, and the cafes that exist in the airport, and you've got the industry explosion because of one central point. So why am I telling you about that? Because what if something you just bought can be a whole new business for you by simply looking at what that is and exploding that industry? Okay, again, hopefully that might be just an idea. And then of course the affiliate method, being able to, if you've got an audience, and again, I did this as a live example on a webinar, so I know it works. At one point when I've asked, what could you talk about for 60 seconds? Somebody said drinking wine. And I said, awesome, let's do that. Let's go and create something on drinking wine. And so my example was, I just literally went to Google and I typed in winery tour affiliate program, winery tour affiliate program. Now, if what you're putting out there into the world is funny, interesting information about drinking wine, and then you can send people to a winery tour and get paid. And I think the actual payment on that was about $300 per tour. So could you target an audience and send them to a winery tour and get paid? Yeah, of course you could. So just thinking about making money, a few different methods there: the Rolodex method, the give a talk method, the what I just bought industry explosion method, the affiliate method. There are ways to make money. To think it through. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, so audience. I mentioned that my whole topic today was going to be about advertising and outsourcing, and I am just about out of time. In about 25 minutes, I can't believe I've gone for an hour without any PowerPoint slides. In about 25 minutes, I've got to take my daughter to a viola rehearsal, so I'll go through this next little bit quickly. So audiences, how do we build audiences? We talked about pixels, we talked about broadcast, we talked about email. And there is a question that was sent through from, let me find who it was. Trevor. Trevor, are you here? Are you with us? Is Trevor with us on the call? He did say he was going to struggle to make it, but sent through the question anyway. Trevor asked, isn't outsourcing expensive? Isn't advertising expensive? How do I get started with very little to no money? And I'm going to cover that in just a second. But so we talked about audiences and building the audiences. And so let me tell you about an experience that I had this week. And I started off the call by saying, what are some of the wins? This was a win for me. This week, I've engaged a professional advertising agency to look after some of our ads. So this is the first time I've done that. This is new for me. I have typically done that myself, and I'm not bad at it. But this was very interesting for me. So one of our products is called RepWarn. It's a reputation management program designed for business to help them stay on top of their social media. And we've done pretty well with it. And what we've done with our program has been advertised. We've literally, hey, Mr. Business Owner, you should be protecting your reputation. Click here, find out more, come buy my product, right? And like I said, we've done okay. It's not bad. And that's what most of us do, right? When we're thinking about advertising, we say, here's my product, Who wants to buy it? Here's my product. Who wants to buy it? Anybody? Who wants to buy it? And we put up our ads and say, come and buy our product. And so this advertising agency that I engaged with, he said, I think we can get you better results by following this strategy. And I went, okay, tell me about the strategy. And interestingly enough, he came back to me with what I just said to you about audiences. And he said, at the moment, you're spending about $2,000 a month. This is your returns. He said, I think you can spend $2,000 a month and times those returns by 3, and this is how. It's like, oh, tell me more. So the first thing is we look at Facebook and Google, and let's talk specifically Facebook for a second. Facebook is full of everyone. It's got the world there, and anybody that says my audience is not on Facebook is wrong. Everybody is on Facebook, okay, with very, very, very few exceptions. So it's not that your audience is not on Facebook, it's just that you need to get the message right. Okay, so instead of saying to Facebook, the 2 billion people who are on Facebook, here's my product, who wants to buy it? The strategy that this advertising agency said was, let's go sideways and create some specific targeted content that is just about business, that's engaging enough, that captures business people's attention. And then let's advertise RepWarn only to the people that are interested in the business. And we call this layering, okay? Now, again, it's exactly what I just spoke to you about. And when he said it to me, I went, oh, of course, it just makes sense. Where was my head at? I'll tell you where my head was at. My head was at this. I'm busy, so here's an ad, and look, there's sales, and yay. But instead of that, we've gone, hang on a second, if you just change, you could get better results. So the reason I've engaged an advertising agency to do this for me is because I'm busy, all right? And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So I'm paying these guys, I think it's about $2,000 a month to look after our advertising for us. So what he's talking about is exactly what I just said, creating content that is interesting to my specific audience. And then now that I can target that audience, when I set my ads in front of them, we're going to see a much different result. Rather than everyone who's anyone seeing my ads, okay, which costs a lot of money, we're going to fine tune it down by first making sure that they are in business. Are you a business person? Are you a business owner? Are you interested in things that help business growth, for example? If you're interested in things that help business growth, doesn't it make sense then that you are interested in growing your business, and we can walk through with some different things. So the reason I bring that up is because if you can think about how to attract that audience first and then make the sales second, like I just said in this training program, then I think you're going to have better results, okay? And we'll get to Trevor's question, how do I do that when I don't have any money? We'll get to that in just a second. So that's the strategy that was laid out for me, and I went, wow, that's really, really cool. So I've got it on the slide here again, you guys can't see it, so I'm going to have to read it out. So this was directly from his engagement contract with us and the different steps that we're going to go through. So step 1, top of the funnel, informative social posts and videos relating to business and business growth. Underneath that, he's got retarget these viewers. And we retarget them with what? The middle of the funnel. So the top of the funnel is interest. The middle of the funnel, we're retargeting the interested people with testimonials, video guides and how-to examples, case studies and demos, okay, of the product itself. Still not come and buy it. Interest, retargeting, and then retarget them again, layering. So we start with that big audience, we find out who's interested, we find out who'll look at the review, and we send the sale information right there into the center. So step 1, top of the funnel, information. Step 2, middle of the funnel, testimonials, case studies, and how-to guides. Step 3, the main offer, product, call to action, okay? So this is the strategy that a professional marketing agency is putting into place for me, okay? So again, take that as something that may be helpful for you. So now let's talk about outsourcing, okay? And again, I love my slides. I'm glad you get to experience them through me, right? So my next slide says outsourcing. Why have I gone down the Facebook agency path when I've been doing it myself? And I've got outsourcing there should we do outsourcing? When not doing something is costing you more than having someone else do it for you. Okay, so again, let me give you a very personal conversation that I just had recently. So again, we're looking at growing a couple of our different brands, and I put a call out for lead generation agencies to do some work for us. And I shortlisted it down to 2 or 3, and then I had a call, and this was one of the calls. And so this is someone who runs a professional lead generation agency, and he and I jump on the call together, and I said to him, so what's your strategy? What will you do? And he said, okay, so what we're going to do is we have a, Pete asked, can I send the slides? Yeah, sure. What we're going to do is we have an automated program that we use on LinkedIn to create a connection with people. Like, so it does the automated connections. Then after a day, it sends them a follow-up message. After a day, it sends them a follow-up message. And the people that are interested, we then book into a calendar. And from the calendar, you know, we get into a sales presentation. And this is the stupidity that I was demonstrating. Okay, and I need you guys to hear this, because I went, yeah, I actually own a few of those programs, because it's true. And then here's me saying to this person, yeah, I know all that stuff. I know this. Come on, man, give me something new. And I was arrogant in that belief, okay, that I knew exactly what was going on. And it was a good call. I had a good connection with the guy, and he sent me a very, very, very interesting email afterwards, and that was the one that made me open my eyes and stop being so stupid. And the email said, "Hey Walt, great to connect with you. I really felt like, you know, we got along really super well. You mentioned that you own a couple of these LinkedIn automated programs. You know about email outreach, calendar booking, sales presentations, and that kind of stuff. And that's awesome. So that being said, why aren't you doing it?" And I went, damn, why aren't I doing it? Because I own probably 3 automated LinkedIn programs. I have a really good cold email outreach system and template. I have all of the things that he was saying he was going to do within the agency. And yet the reason I was reaching out was because my lead generation wasn't active enough. So how stupid. Like, I was looking at this guy saying, yeah, I know all that stuff, man. You're not going to give me anything new. No. What he's going to give me that's new is the activity of actually doing it. We're all so busy that we know what we should be doing. And so what I said a few moments ago was, when should you outsource? When not doing it is costing you more than doing it, okay? So the long story short, yes, we engaged these guys, and they're not doing anything that I didn't already know how to do. But the difference is they're doing it and I wasn't, okay? Lead generation is one of the most important things you can ever do for your business. And as a business owner, I get busy. I'm doing webinars, I'm talking to customers, I'm answering support tickets, I'm talking to developers, I'm doing all that sort of stuff. And it's really, really easy to get busy doing stuff that isn't bringing money in the door, okay? So when should you outsource? When not doing it is costing you more. Does that make sense, guys? Like, again, a lot of people out there, probably with you guys, you already have the skills and think to yourself, I know how to do that. So why would I pay someone else to do it? Well, you may know how to do it, but if you're not actually doing it, then it's costing you money. Does that make sense? Obviously, it's 1. Anybody else? Does that make sense? Give me a 1. Like, so for everybody that bought Video Dashboard, okay, if you're not going to use it, if you're not going to actually put out content every day, then get yourself a $10 a week person who's going to do it for you, because you bought it for a purpose. And if we're too busy to use it, get someone else to do it for you so you can at least get the result. Okay. Obvi says, I think lead gen sounds exciting. One of the most lucrative businesses in the world, Obvi. Right? Creating audiences. Facebook have done it well. So I finished my little outsourcing thing there by saying knowing about something is very different from actually doing it. So what's the cost of not getting it done? And that's where we need to look at. So then Trevor says, this was Trevor's question exactly word for word. From Trevor, my question is about budget. Advertising and outsourcing are expensive, or can be, and I've found myself at times where I've needed to generate traffic and income with very little or even nothing to invest in promotion. How would you deal with that, Walt? I mean, would you just go for free platforms? And if so, what would your strategy be? Or would you try and do JV deals with the outsourcers? How can you take advantage of the internet's free side to get your business off the ground, in other words? Okay, so my answer to Trevor, and who said hold up a mirror? Patrick, when you said hold up a mirror, Patrick's qualified his comment and said, hold up a mirror so we can see your slides. You'd be reading them backwards. But I could do that. But when you said hold up a mirror, it was interesting because I was talking about knowing something and not doing it, all right? And you said hold up a mirror. I was like, yeah, I know, Patrick. I'm talking to myself at the same time, right? So, but answering Trevor's question, okay, when you absolutely have to do it and you have to do it yourself, and how do you change that quickly? So when you absolutely have to do it yourself because you don't have the money, here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to be extremely active in your own personal communication, okay? And I'm talking about extremely active. I'm not talking about send 2 messages and hope for a response. I'm talking about 10x, and I'm talking about send 200. And if you have to stay up until 2 a.m., then you have to stay up until 2 a.m. And I'm sorry, the reason that you don't have any money is because you haven't done this up until now, so now's the time, okay? If you, I say to my kids all the time, you can have results or you can have excuses, but you can't have both, okay? So if you're working a job, I completely understand it. If you don't have the money to get somebody else to do it, you're gonna need to do it yourself, and that means you're gonna need to work, okay? Britney Spears says it great in one of her songs. I've got it on my power workout mix. You wanna drive a Bugatti, you wanna have a Bulgari, you gotta work. That's all it is, all right? So first thing first, and again, for your notes, you need professional communication and a lot of it, okay? Reach out to people who can make things happen for you. For example, that thing that we said before, I think it was Pete who said he could speak about fishing, all right, Pete? So let's put together a fishing guide, tips and tricks, how to bait your hook, whatever it is, okay? Now, communication, how am I gonna make sales of this? How am I gonna get this out there? You're gonna have to communicate professionally to people who run fishing groups. Okay, I'm not talking about spamming the groups, because if you go into a group and start spamming all your staff, you're going to get kicked out quick and you're going to get yourself a bad reputation. I'm talking about professional communication, and it goes like this. You go to the group and you find out who the admin of the group is and you approach them personally. Hi, John. My name's Pete. I am a member of your fishing group and I love the content. I've just put together a guide for my local area called Fishing Tips and Tricks in the XYZ River. Just wondered if I could, let the group know about it, okay? Or just wondered if you could let the group know about it. Even better, if you can get to that level of a relationship. But you need a lot of communication and you need to do it professionally, okay? And a lot of communication can happen in all of the web's free platforms. YouTube, comment, get involved, be professional, and make sure that you're not just dropping a comment that says, this was a great video, thanks. Oh, by the way, can you sell my product for me? Okay? No. If you're going to comment on a YouTube video, be relevant. Comment about something specific. Comment so that your comment makes a difference to the people that are watching the video as well. Kathy says, woo, you can either have excuses or what? Question mark. You can either have results or you can have excuses, but you can't have both. That's it. You can't pay someone to do your push-ups. That's true, Patrick. That's true. Communication. Be strategic is my next point on this. If you don't have the money and you have to absolutely do it yourself, be strategic. Don't go to everyone because the web's a big place and you don't have time. Be strategic. Who are the influencers? Maxwell, what's his name? The Tipping Point, okay? the influencers, the people that can make the biggest difference. Okay, so if somebody's got a following of 10,000 people on LinkedIn about, I don't know, business coaching and whatever, that's a great influencer for you to talk about time management or whatever your product is. Okay, but be strategic in your communication. So you haven't got a lot of time and you have to do a lot of communication. What you can do is spend $5. All right, if you don't have $5, you're gonna have to do this yourself, but spend $5 on Fiverr and ask for a list of 100 top influencers in the XYZ niche. Get them on a spreadsheet, right? And somebody will do that for you for $5, no troubles at all. And if you really don't have money, you can do that for someone else for $5, okay? I told this story last time, I'm running out of time. I told this story last time. My neighbor is a lovely woman. She's a great family. She has a job where she gets paid for 20 hours, but the boss gives her 60 hours of work. So she's coming home and she's got a little one, and she's working, not getting paid anymore. But she's too scared to leave the job. And I said to her, why don't you go onto Upwork or Freelancer? And there's so many things, because she's actually, her job is in e-commerce, which I find fascinating. And I said, there's so many jobs out there that you could do from home and whatever. And this is the reality. Like this very week, 2 jobs that I put up on Upwork. One of them was the Facebook agency, which I've now chosen somebody at, a couple of grand a month to look after it after a process. Here's another job that I put up. My podcast, we've done now 55 episodes. I wanted someone to go through those 55 episodes, take out one specific question from each of those interviews, jot it down word for word in a document, and create a book for me. Okay? Now, you don't need to be a genius to do that job. What you do need to do is have the computer access and the internet so that you could do that from a library. Okay? I've given that job to someone, paid them $500 to go and do it for me. Okay? Wow. If you really don't have money, get onto Upwork and do some work and get it in there. The next thing about when you absolutely have to do it yourself, and how do I do it without any money? Get prepayments. So we talked about the Rolodex method, okay? And we said you can go to a business, find out what they need. They need SEO services, for example. You can talk to Pete, and instead of having the money to pay for an outsourcer, you need the customer to pay you first. So it's a little bit more difficult, but not much, because you've just spoken to the customer about what they need, and you're about to sell them SEO services with Pete, okay? And Pete's going to charge you, Pete, I'm not being insulting here, but Pete's going to charge you $500 a month. And what you need to do is go to the customer and say, okay, so we're going to take care of all of this for you for $700 a month. I need the first $500 up front. Okay, so prepayments. If you don't have any money and you're using the Rolodex method, get prepayments. Get the customers to pay the deposit, okay? How to make money fast? Really provide a top value or service. Really provide a top value or service. And I've got this on my slides, but that's the point that I was saying about some of these Upwork sites or freelancing sites. If you can provide a top level service, like for example, I keep coming back to Video Dashboard, and I'm not bashing it. I think it's great. I'm so happy that it's existing in the marketplace. I'm so happy that some of you guys have bought it. That's great. That means it's got a value, okay? But what if you could become the Video Dashboard expert? I can create 200 videos a week, send them out to 17 different social platforms for you, and do that for $50 a week, okay? Who wants it? Okay, if you can provide a top value service, you can make money by making sure that you find the people who are looking, and some of these freelance sites are great places to do that. And the other thing that I've got there, when you absolutely have to and you don't have money yourself, we're talking about advertising and we're talking about outsourcing. We've got that system. Communicate, be strategic, take prepayments, and be a top service provider. And then my last point is there, and outsource fast. Okay, and outsource fast. So as soon as you do have a little bit of money coming in, take $20 or $100 of that, give it to someone else to do lots of the work that takes a lot of time, that doesn't make a lot of money, like going out and finding 100 influencers, for example. Take a little bit of the money that you earn and outsource quickly so that your time is free and you can make more. All right, so that's just some tips if you absolutely have to do it yourself. Kathy asks, who do you outsource to? Kathy, I almost exclusively use Upwork. And a very quick tip on Upwork, upwork.com, fantastic, brilliant place. I only work with people with, good feedback. always make sure I get a connection. One of my best tips for putting up a job on Upwork is to include a, what do they call it? An Easter egg in my job description. So my job description will go something like this for the one that I needed to review the podcast and create a book for me, okay? Review the podcast, do this, blah, 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 and then halfway through the job description, I write, if you're reading this, please include the word lightning in your response so that I know you've read this job description, blah, 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 right? Because a lot of the time what will happen is a lot of these outsourcers just have a copy paste reply. Hi, I've read your job description and I think I could do it really well for you. Here's my credentials. Copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And just by putting that little Easter egg in there, I want to make sure they've actually read it and know specifically what I'm looking for. So anybody that responds back and doesn't have the word lightning in it gets deleted straight away. Delete, 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 and it leaves me with the people that have read it. So that's a little quick tip for you, okay? But Kathy, Upwork. Okay, over to you. Over to you is my next slide. Over to you. I've got just a few minutes left. Who's got a question I can help with? Is there anything that you would like me to talk about? If not, you can always send me an email. So it's walt@waltbayliss.com. I'm just going back. There was a question I said I'd come back to. So while you're talking, I'm searching. Okay. Kathy said she'd love to hear about outsourcing. Hopefully that's helped, Kathy. Right. I can't find it as I'm scrolling. Takeo asks about the payments on the rentals. How do you monitor subscriptions to make sure payments are current? Honestly, it just goes through and you get a notification if payments are missed. And so then you can just go through and send the person an email and say, hey, you missed your payment. Do you still want the domain? Okay, I'm just scrolling, guys. Is there anybody that, Pete had that question. Okay, so Pete asked a question. So Pete, as you know, does SEO services. I talk about Pete a lot. Pete. We've talked all about Pete this time. Pete does SEO services and has a Google My Business proposition for customers as well. How do I find local businesses that need my service? Pete, have I answered that a little bit with talking about audiences? So what if you got together with your local council member and did a Facebook Live about the local area, okay, and then ran some targeted Facebook ads just to that video about what's happening in the business? That way you know that businesses are local and are watching, and then from there you can start to reach out to a more targeted group of people. My answer, Pete, is 100% Facebook, just purely because you can target so locally. Cool, everybody's got a lot of, no, UStudio wasn't mine. Okay, cool. Wayne says, I've got a job I'd like to share, go for it. And Pete says, thanks, you got some value, cool, great. Okay, cool. So guys, again, if you've got questions, please send them through. You've seen that I do address them. So I read all my emails. Sometimes I don't reply, but I do read them. So if you've got a question that you'd like me to address in the webinar, when you get the webinar invitation, hit reply. Even if you can't make it to the webinar, hopefully you can get the answer on the replay. Jeremy asks, which questions are mine? I've got tons. Jeremy, so we've got Rep Warn, we've got Discover, we've got Cold Reach, we've got a new one coming out, we've got Engage, quite a few, quite a few. I used to own a webinar program, which we sold last year. Lots, I've had lots in the past. Those are the ones we own at the moment. Okay, so if you've got questions, walt@waltbayliss.com, you can send it through or reply to the invite. Couple of quick ones just to finish, and again, I wish you could see the slides. I interviewed a gentleman this week named Ben, and Ben is a marketing expert and branding expert, and Ben's simple comment was, before you can market anything, before you can advertise, you truly, absolutely need to know what your own brand story is. And that's a great lesson from Ben as a branding expert. What he basically said was, as you're out there starting to get a market and get an audience, be sure of your story. Make sure that your product, yourself, your position has a story, and that emanates through everything you do. It was a very, very cool lesson. I also interviewed a gentleman named Clay. which was the other side of the content coin, is that not only do you have to create really interesting content, you've got to land it in front of the right people. Okay, so Clay's talking about creating that audience, and again, that's why I thought it was relevant. You have to land it in front of the right people. So create the content and then make sure that it's getting in front of the people who actually care about it. Okay, cool. So our podcast, you can get to Business and People podcast. I said that this was a non-pitch, so I'm glad that that's free. I'll put the link in here if you guys want to get any of our interviews as we're getting it out there. There we go. Hopefully that came to everyone. bappodcast.com, bappodcast.com. You can hear our interviews. So what's coming up this week, team? All right, this week you're going to get a lot of emails from me and probably from some other people as well about a program called the Underground Affiliate System. I'm getting behind that simply because it's a copy and paste, get started fast business. I love it. I know the guys that have put it together for the last 10 years. So I will be sending you emails about that. It's called the Underground Affiliate System. I'll let you know as that's coming through. I think it starts tomorrow. It's basically 100 or so campaigns that are proven that you can literally start with and make money immediately. And that I thought was great for lots of people, no matter what they're doing, that they can pick it up. So you'll get emails from me about that, the Underground Affiliate System. Towards the end of the week, I'm going to be bringing in an expert in YouTube marketing and YouTube video ads. I learned a lot from this guy. So we're going to do a webinar with him. We're going to talk about how you can create fast YouTube videos that get ranked and get traffic and make sales as a result. And then at the end, he's actually got a software program that does a lot of the research. It is the only YouTube software program that I use for research. So he's going to make that as an offer. I think it's going to be a couple $100. But the webinar, come along and learn about video ads as well. So that's coming up this week. And also one more thing for you, which I will put in here as well. If you want to ask a question, as I said, you can write me an email, or you can head over to here. It's waltbayliss.com/question, and you'll just literally fill in a thingy. What's your question? Tell me where you are and where you want to get to and what's holding you back, and we might be able to answer that for you in another update. All right, guys, that is me. I'm off to take my daughter to Viola this morning. Thank you again for joining me. Hopefully it's been worth your time. If it has, drop me an email. Say thanks. Let me know that you got something out of it. That will be a big boost. That'll be great. And as always, I really appreciate you being being with me on these webinars. Hopefully I'm giving some help and some advice and some tips. You can reach out to me anytime. And again, as always, I really appreciate the trust, the loyalty, the communication, the connection with you. Please take that seriously. I know I do. And hopefully I can help with your businesses moving forward. All right. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Next time we should have slides. Somebody asked, can we have the slides? Yes. I'll put the recording of this on the blog. I'll send you a link and I'll include the slide downloads so you can get the slides as well. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend ahead, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.